The exception is nothing but abnormal condition. So abnormal condition means that disturb the normal flow of the program. So the program is terminated abnormally, and then object during that time an object is thrown. So that is called exception. Okay, and then this object can be created by Java runtime system or can be manually generated by our code. Okay, so that object is thrown during runtime. So that is created by Java runtime system or it can be created by manually our program. And then to handle that, when exception is occurred, the program is terminated abnormally. So to avoid that, we have one exception handling mechanism. So by using that, we can maintain the normal flow of application. So if exception is occurred, the program is terminated abnormally. If we handle that exception, then that will maintain the normal flow of application. Two type of exceptions are there. Actually, exceptions are exception and error. So exceptions are two type, checked exception and unchecked exception. So what does mean by checked exception means some exception can be identified by compiler itself. So some compiler identifies some statement, so that will identify this statement may cause exception. So that is called checked exception. Some statement cannot be identified by the compiler which may cause exception or may not cause exception. But some statement can be identified by compiler itself. That statement may cause exception. So surely we have to handle that exception. Otherwise, we will get compile time error. During compile time itself, we will get an error. And then error is nothing but irrecoverable error. That example, out of memory error, that and all. And then this is the hierarchy of exception. For all class, object is the super class. From that object, one class is derived, that is throwable. From throwable, two classes are derived, exception and error. Okay, so error is nothing but irrecoverable error. And then exceptions are IO exception, SQL exception, arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception. So this type of exception, arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception are all unchecked exception. This IO exception and SQL exceptions are checked exception. So what does mean by unchecked? What does mean by checked? So the compiler itself, it can identify some statement. That statement may cause error. So, okay, so that type of exception is called checked exception. And the compiler cannot identify the statement which may cause exception or may not cause exception. That is unchecked exception. And then to handle exception, to handle exception, several keywords are used that are try, catch, finally, throw, and throws. Okay, so what is the purpose of this try means the statement which are all may cause exception that are all going to be written within try block. Okay, the statement which are all may cause exception that are all going to be written within try block. So statements to be monitored and or placed inside a try. If exception occur within try block, it is thrown. And that is catched by the catch block. That is handled by this catch block. So catch this. What is the purpose of this catch block? To catch this exception. And then finally, whether exception is there or not there, this finally block is executed. So when it is executed, before return statement, whether exception is there or not there, this finally block is executed. When it is executed means before the return statement. So any code that absolutely must be executed before a method returns. And then throw. So by using this keyword, we can manually throw the exception. We can manually, actually the exception can be thrown by using Java runtime system and also by our code manually. Okay, for that we can use the keyword throw. So this is used to manually throw an exception. And then throws. So if we use this keyword throws in any method, here I am giving instruction to other user. This method may throw exception, you have to handle it. So by using this throws, what I'm telling, this method, actually this throws keyword are used in method. So by using this throws, I'm giving an information to the programmer or user. This method may cause this type of exception. So for that exception, you have to write the handling mechanism. So for that purpose, throws is used. Okay, this is the try block, and then catch block, catch. And then finally, so finally you have to write how you have to write the structure means first try block. So within this try block, the statement which are all may cause exception that are all written within try block. And then the exceptions are handled by this catch block. So we can write without catch by using only finally also. Okay, so we can write the try block without a catch block. but finally should be there. Okay, so when this finally is executed, even exception is there or not there, this finally block is executed, but before written statement. But before written statement. If there is an exception, here many exception types are there. Exception 1, exception type 2. So here exception type 1 is thrown, that is catched by this catch block, first catch block. If exception type is 2, that is catched by this second catch block, and corresponding necessary action is taken by this catch block. So this is the structure of the try catch block. So let's me see one example for checked exception. Checked exception. Here here I'm going to throw what type of exception means IO exception. Here I'm going to throw what type of exception, IO exception. So that's why I have import the class IO exception. And then here I have created one class called checked exception. So within that I have one static function fn. From main function, I am calling the static function. So that is a static function. I no need to create object. So control will come to here. Actually here explicitly I am creating object for what type of object? Explicitly I am creating object for IO exception. Okay. So here I'm creating object for IO exception. So now this E is the object of IO exception. And then what I'm doing? I'm throwing that exception. I'm throwing that exception. So here, checked exception and unchecked exception. No, so this checked IO exception is the checked exception. IO exception is the checked exception. So compiler, when compiler compile the statement, when compiler compile the statement, so it check the type of this E. So this type of this E is IO exception. So compiler itself it can find out. So this statement are all cause exception. So what it will do? It will show after compilation. This program show an error, compile time error. So what it is showing? Checked exception, unreported exception, IO exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. What is this meaning? So here one exception is created and that exception is thrown. For that you have to write the handling mechanism. So from this what compiler convey to us means here one exception is thrown. So that exception should be handled. That exception should be handled. So that's why we have to write this statement within try catch block. So within try catch block, otherwise we will get a compile time error. So now I have written the statement IO exception and then I'm throwing that object. So that two statement I have written within try block. So after try block, I have written catch block. So in that catch block, what type of exception here I'm throwing IO exception. So that's why here that catch block type is IO exception and then object name. Okay, and then here system.out.println IO error. So when I am throwing this one, so this is catched by this object. This exception is catched by this object, and here this exception is also IO exception, and this object is also the type IO exception. So then it can catch that type exception. So then it will print IO error. This type of exception. So compiler itself it can find out some statement may cause runtime exception. So that should be handled. Okay, so during compile time itself it will give an information to us. This statement allow may cause runtime exception. You should handle this. Like that, compiler will give information to us. And then next, unchecked exception. Here I have created a class called unchecked exception. So within that also I have the same function fn, static function. So when a program is executed, it called the function fn. Within that fn, I have created object for arithmetic exception. So this arithmetic exception is an unchecked exception. So even compiler compile the statement, the compiler doesn't know whether it may cause exception or may not cause exception. So compiler won't provide any information to us during compile time. So that type of exception is called unchecked exception. So during while I am compiling that program, the program is compiled successfully without any error. Because here what type of exception I'm throwing? Arithmetic exception. So the time so compiler won't check this type of exception. But what will happen when I'm throwing this object explicitly? What will happen means this program is terminated abnormally, because here I have not written any handling mechanism, try catch block. So here I have not written try catch block, but previous one I have written the try catch block. So it is a printed IO error, and this program is terminated successfully without any abnormal termination. But here the program is terminated abnormally. So here I'm getting an exception in exception thread in main. That exception is Java lang arithmetic exception, and this exception is unchecked exception. Okay, tell me,
Ma'am.
Tell me, pa.
Ma'am, for the previous slide, ma'am. Do we need to import any thing, ma'am, for this?
No. For this one, the lang package for arithmetic exception, lang package itself an enough, ma. So the lang package is the default package. Even if you are not imported, that is automatically imported, ma. So this arithmetic exceptions are all available in the lang package itself. Lang package itself, pa. Okay, ma. But this IO exception, no, ma. So this IO exception is only available in the package. In package IO, pa. Okay, in this package IO only this IO exception is available. So many exception, many classes are there in this package IO, but here I'm going to use only IO exception, no? So that's why I have only imported that particular class. Ma got it, ma?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, pa.
Ma'am, open previous slide, ma'am. Checked exception. Checked exception. Ma'am, here in without try catch block, if we in static void function, if we did not write throw E, what will happen, ma'am?
If I try to create, if I'm creating object, it won't show any error, pa. But if I am throwing means that time it will show the error, pa. Okay. Unreported exception. If I'm just created the object, na, it won't show any compile time error. But if I am throwing, na, actually for example purpose here, I'm explicitly throwing, ma. But actually that exceptions are all we won't explicitly throw like this. Okay, so that is automatically happened. For understanding purpose, here I have created one object explicitly and I'm throwing that object explicitly. But actually, runtime exceptions are happened automatically. So we will see that later. Then you will get clear. Understood,
okay.
Abba?
Yes,
ma'am, here you don't need to write the finally statement, ma'am.
That finally statement is an option one, ma. Finally is an option, but try block, you should write with the try block you should write with the catch block, pa. If there is no catch block, at least the finally block you should have. Okay, ma. The try block.
If we write try block and finally block without catch block.
Without catch block, if I written finally, catch block and all executed if an exception is there, pa. Okay, ma. Catch block is executed if the corresponding exception is thrown, na, that catch block is executed, ma. But finally block, it is not like that, ma. Whether exception is there or not there, the finally block will be executed. Got it, ma?
Okay.
You can write a try block with only finally. Okay, ma. But ma, try block means you should have to write a catch block. If there is no catch block, at least you should write finally. Okay, papa.
Okay,
mama. Here, this is one exception, ma. Actually, the number divided by 0. So what type of exception here occurred means this type of exception is arithmetic exception, ma. Okay, so that arithmetic exception is checked exception, unchecked exception, ma. That arithmetic exception is unchecked exception, pa. Arithmetic exception is unchecked exception. So divide by 0 are all comes under that exception called arithmetic exception, pa. So this is so this will throw one exception object. What type of exception object is throw means it is throwing arithmetic exception object. So then that is handled means the rest of the code is executed, ma. So that is handled by catch block or finally block means. Okay, so that is handled by catch block or finally block means the rest of the code is executed. If it is not handled means, if it is not handled, if you are not written try and catch block means, then what will happen? JVM will take care of that exception. So this will print 3 statements. One is print out the exception description and then print the stack trace and then terminate the program. So it will the 3 operations are going to perform. So if you are not handled that exception, so that is not written within try catch block, then JVM will take care of that exception. So then it will do these 3 operations. So print out the exception description. So why this exception is occurred. So the description and then print the stack trace from which function this exception is occurred. And then finally abnormally then it will terminate the program. But here not like that, ma. If you handle the exception, the rest of the code is execute. But if JVM handle that exception means it will terminate the program abnormally. Here we will see you without exception handler. So now without exception handler how this program is executed, and we will see the same program with the exception handler. So here I have created a class called exception1, and within that I have one static method add with the return type int. Okay, and then here what I'm you come to main function. So within that main function, what I am calling, I'm calling the add function. For first argument is 15 and second argument is string bar. Within double quotes I am passing. Okay, so then it will then control will come to here. Okay, now what is the value of this A? A value is 15. A value is 15 and then B value is 3. A value is 15 and B value is 3 ma. So now that string can be converted to integer by using this function integer dot parseInt. So this parseInt is the static function. So this integer is the class name. So integer class name dot parseInt. So static method can be invoked by using their class name. So integer dot parseInt and then I'm passing B. So B is the string. So that string is going to be converted to integer. So now this num is going to have value 3 and then next I'm going to print string to num. So what it will print? It will print 3, the num value 3. I have converted that string type 3 to integer type. Now what is the value of A? 15. So 15 divided by 3. 15 divided by 3. What we will get? We will get 5. Okay, so that is returned. So that is returned, and then here it will print 5. So first time 5 will be. So first it will print string num colon 3. So that is printed first, and then next it will print 5. And next I am passing this one 15 and then 0. So again control will come to here. Again control will come to here. So now 15 and 0. 15 and 0. So now I'm converting that 0 string to number. So now this number have 0. And then I'm printing string to num. String to num value is 0. String to num value is 0. And then and then I am dividing 15 by 0. So actually 15 by dividing any number by 0, that is an exception. So here what exception object is thrown means, what type of exception object is thrown here? What type of exception object is thrown here?
Arithmetic
exception. But here I am not handling that exception. I am not handling exception. So that's why what will happen? This exception is taken care by Java runtime system. So then what Java runtime system will do? It will print the exception description. What type of exception? So it will print the exception description, and then it will print the stack trace. That means this exception is occurred from which function. That type of information provided by JVM. And finally, it will terminate the program abnormally. And these statements are all won't be executed. These statements are all won't be executed. Okay, so these statements are all won't be executed. Without execute these code, the program terminated abnormally. So after printing the 0, so we got that exception. So exception in train. So this is the description about that exception part. Java.lang.arithmetic exception, that is a divide by 0. So this is this exception is occurred in which function? Add, and this add function is called from main. So this is a stack trace. So this exception actually is occurred from add, but this add is called from main. I have called this add function from main only. So this is called a stack trace. And finally the program is terminated abnormally. After this one, this code and all not executed. This program is terminated abnormally. So this is exception description, and this is a stack trace, and this is program terminated abnormally. But now we will see the same program by handling the exception. Okay, so with exception handler. Now I have written this block. I'm going to write these 3 statements. I'm going to write these 3 statements within try block, because these statements may cause runtime exception. So these statements may cause runtime exception. So the statement which are all may cause runtime exception, you can write those statements within try block. So that's why I have written these 3 statements within try block. After the try block, I should write this catch block should be immediate of the try block. So this catch block should be immediate to the try block. So here I have 2 catch block. One catch block I'm going to handle the arithmetic exception. In another catch block, I'm going to handle the number format exception. Okay, so I will explain what is called number format exception. And these both exceptions are unchecked exception. Both exceptions are unchecked exception. And then I have one statement finally. Okay, so this finally block is executed. Whether error is there or not there, this finally block will be executed. Okay, so now first statement. So for first statement, it will come to here. So now A value is 15 and then B value is 3. So now it will convert the 3. Actually 3 is the string type. So now it will convert that integer to num type. Int type. So now this num have value 3. So then it will print a string num. So now it will print string num colon 3 pa. After that, now before a return statement, the finally block is executed. So then it will print finally. So then only return statement is executed. Before return statement, by finally block is executed, whether error is there or not there, the finally block will be executed. Okay, so now there is no exception. Even though the finally block will be executed. Okay, and then the return value will come to here. So then it will print value 5. So then 5 will be printed. Okay, and then next it will come to here. So now again for A15. For A15 is passed, for B0 is passed. So now 0 is converted to integer. So now this num is going to have 0. So now it will print a string num colon num, that is a 0. String to num colon 0. And then here, here I am dividing the number A by num. Actually return statement is executed. Before returning that value, finally will be executed. Actually, return statement is executed, but before returning that value, finally will be executed. So first this is executed. So 15 by 0. 15 by 0 now what type of exception is occurred? 15 by 0 means what type of exception is occurred? Here what type of?
Arithmetic.
Very good. So it will throw the arithmetic exception object. So here I have two catch block. One catch block handle arithmetic exception, another one handle number format exception. So this exception will come to first catch block. So here I am printing just that object AE. This exception is arithmetic exception object. No? So that will come to here. So I am just printing that AE. So if I am printing that AE means it will print the description about that exception. So this I told you, this arithmetic exceptions are all available in that lang package. So the lang package is the default package. You no need to import. Automatically it is imported. Okay, so that's why it is showing java.lang.arithmetic exception. What type of arithmetic exception this? This is divide by 0. And then only finally return statement executed. Then finally block is executed. So in that finally block, what we have printed? Finally. And then in the previous program, when exception is occurred, after that these two statements are all not executed. No, program is terminated abnormally. But here I have handling that exception. So after printing that, what will happen? It will come to this statement. After that, it will come to this statement. So now I am passing 15 and 2. Now I am passing 15 and 2. Okay, so now I am converting 2 string to number. So then it will print a string num colon 2. And then actually it is this A by num is executed. A by num that is a 15 by 2. So 15 by 2 that is 7 point something. Actually the value is both are integer, so the value is 7. So before returning that value, finally block will be executed. So it will print the finally, and then only the value 7 is returned. And then next after that this statement. So this statement is going to be executed. So now 15 and then 2.5. Here I will get one exception because 2.5. So now that is double. No, I cannot convert that is by using integer dot parse into function. So here actually this is a number format exception. So here this is actually a number format exception is occurred. So what type of object here thrown means here number format exception object is thrown. So that is catched by this first catch block type is arithmetic exception. The second catch block type is number format exception. So now that exception is catched by this number format exception, and then I'm just printing this object NE. So this will print the description. So what it will print? Java.lang.number format exception for input string 2.5. So that is giving an information to us. After that, the finally block is executed. So then it will print finally. Then I am returning that 0. No, so that 0 will come and printed here. After finally block, after finally block, I am returning that 0 value. So that will be printed here. Understood, Amma? Without exception handler and with the exception handler, you understood, Appa? Say yes or no, ma?
Ma'am, just like parse int, do we have anything for double, ma'am?
Yeah, parse double, ma.
Oh, okay.
Double dot parse double.
Okay, ma'am.
Float dot parse float, like that. How to get the input still I have not explained. No, so next class I will explain how to get the input from user. Next class I will explain, and then I will explain some more method which are all used to convert in string to integer and which are all used to convert integer to string. That and all I will explain in next class, ma. Okay, Aman, now tell me, pa.
Ma'am, for arithmetic exception, no need to create any class.
That and all built-in class, ma. That and all built-in class. Automatically, that object, if exception is occurred, the corresponding object is created and that is automatically thrown.
Okay, ma'am.
And we can also write our own exception. So that time we have to write the class. This and all built-in exception. But sometimes you thinking if input to user press input to, that time I have to throw an exception. Like that, if you feel means you can write your own exception. So for that we have to define one class. So that we will see later how to create our own exception. So in the previous example itself, we have seen a multi-catch. Okay, so try with only single catch means that can handle only one type of exception. In the previous example itself, we have seen multiple catch block. One catch block handle arithmetic exception and one catch block handled the number format exception. So that is called multi-catch. So perform different tasks at the occurrence of a different exception. So use a Java multi-catch block. So after one catch statement executes, the others are bypassed. Like that, no? When number format exception is occurred, that arithmetic exception is bypassed. So after one catch statement execute, the other bypassed, and the execution continues after the try catch block. So at that time, only one exception is occurred, and at a time, only one catch block is executed. So in the previous example, at a time, only arithmetic exception is occurred one time. At the second time, number format exception is occurred. So at a time, only one exception can be occurred, and that can be handled by only one catch block. And then all catch blocks must be ordered from most specific to most general. So what does mean by most specific to most general means, these are all comes under the category this IO exception, SQL exception, these are all derived from exception. So instead of writing separately arithmetic exception, number format exception, within catch block, I can directly write exception. Within catch block, I can directly write exception. So after that catch block, one catch block with the class exception, after that catch block, if I have written catch number format exception means you will get an error, because whatever that exception is occurred, that is catched by that exception class itself, because this is the base class to all the exception. So any type of exception is occurred, number format exception or arithmetic exception, so then that catch block is executed. So after that, whatever catch block you have written, that and all won't be executed. So that's why here they have mentioned rule, all catch block must be ordered from most specific to most general. So first time itself, if I am giving a most general and then next time giving a specific one, which is executed first, the general is executed, then that specific won't be executed. So that's why it should be more specific to general format. So arithmetic exception must come before catch for exception. Okay, so okay, we will see example. The same example here, number format exception, and then here number format exception. After that only I have written exception. Actually here two type of exceptions are occurred. One is arithmetic exception, another one is a number format exception. If number format exception is occurred, this is catched by this block, this catch block. If arithmetic exception is occurred, here there is no catch block with the arithmetic exception. So then it will go to which exception block means this will go to this general exception block. If I written this catch block first and then I have written this catch block, that is general to more specific, I will get an error. So this should be specific to more general. Okay, understood, understood here what I am telling? Yes or no, that exception is exception class, that exception class, this class. So this class can handle all type of exception, arithmetic exception, number format exception, SQL exception, IO exception, all type of exceptions can be handled by this catch block, because what is the type here I have mentioned exception. So this is the base class of all the exception class. Okay, so whatever exception is occurred, so that can be handled by this block. But here, if I am specifically mentioned number format exception, before this catch block, I have specifically mentioned the number format exception, no? So if number format exception is occurred, na, this catch block will be executed, ma. Here one more exception is also possible, that is arithmetic exception. But here I have not written catch block with arithmetic exception. That arithmetic exception cannot be catched by this block, but that can be catched by this block, ma, exception block. But if I have written this exception block before this number format exception, means whatever exception is occurred, number format exception or arithmetic exception is occurred, that is catched by that exception block itself. So the compiler won't allow you to write a general and then more specific, ma. So it is you have to write from more specific to general, pa. More specific to general. Understood, pa? Understood, Anatma?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So now if I will show you the next example, then you will get clear. Here this will okay. This is statement executed without any exception. But this statement executed, this statement may cause what type of exception? The statement here it will cause arithmetic exception. But here I don't have a catch block with arithmetic exception. But I have one general catch block, that is exception. So this is this block catched all the type of exception. So now this block catch that one. So it will print from exception. From exception it will print the description Java dot long dot arithmetic exception divide by 0, and finally block is executed, then 0 is printed, ma. And this statement is also executed without any exception. But this statement is executed, ma, with the exception because this is a number format exception. Now this number format, before this exception catch block, I have written number format exception, no? So now that exception is catched by this catch block itself, ma. This catch block itself. So then it will print this number format exception 2.5, pa. But if I am written first general exception and then if I am written more specific exception, that is number format exception or some specific exception, no? First if I have written a general exception, it can catch all the exception. So general to specific, na, compiler will show error. Specific to general. So first specific I have written, then I have written generally, na, then compiler allow you to write the code. So next I will show you the example, ma. So here what I have written a catch block with the exception, and then tell me, ma'am.
Ma'am, once come to previous slide, ma'am. Ma'am, in main function we have first arithmetic exception, no, ma'am.
Arithmetic exception. First.
So if we write, ma'am, if we write general exception in try block, it will cause no, it will cause no error, no, ma'am.
No. That is catched by exception.
So then no error will be there, no, ma'am.
No error. And the program won't be terminated abnormally. The program won't be terminated.
Okay.
You can instead of writing a several catch, you can write single catch block with the exception. You can write single catch block with the exception. So what is the disadvantage? To handle arithmetic exception, I am writing one catch block. To handle number format exception, I have written one catch block. I have one general object, the exception object. I can use only one catch block. Now, why I need to write a separate catch block? Why I need to write separate catch block for each and every exception, ma? Is it necessary? Understood, my question? Understood my question or not, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
I can write only the general catch exception, no? Why I need to write a different catch block for different exception, ma? This is also depends on programmer. If a programmer want to do some specific action for arithmetic exception, sometimes the programmer want to do some specific action for number format exception. That time I need a separate catch block, no? Understood, Appa? Understood, Anatma? If programmer wants to do for something particularly when arithmetic exception is occurred, so that time I have to write that thing only within that catch block arithmetic exception, no? Understood, Anatma? Yes or no, ma? So if you want to perform any specific operation for any specific exception, that can be only implemented by if you are written separate catch block. If you are written common catch block, means we cannot do the specific operation. So that's why here the multi catch that itself they have mentioned perform different task at occurrence of different exception. So that's why here it is mentioned perform different tasks at occurrence of different exceptions. So that time we need multi catch. Okay, here most general, so exception. And next I have written specific. So most general to specific. most general to specific, na compiler itself that won't allow you to write pa. So while I'm compiling that program, that time itself you will get an error. So exception number format exception has already been caught. So already been caught by this catch block itself. No, then what is the purpose of this catch block? So that information is given by the compiler, ma. Understood, appa? Say yes or no, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, but only one catch block can handle only one exception, no, ma'am.
This exception, if I return exception means this block can handle all type of exception, ma. Okay. If I write exception means this, this type can handle all the type of exception. So then this is a first catch block, no? So this will handle all the type of exception. So that's why here it is telling, compiler it is telling, exception number format exception has already been caught. Already it is caught by this block. Then what is the purpose of after that you are specifically written this number format exception? So okay. Catch number. Understood, appa?
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So that's all, ma. So we will see the nested try statement in next class, ma. Okay, ma? Okay, ma. Up to this, anybody have doubt, pa? No doubt.
Ma'am, what if we have two exceptions in the try block at the same time?
IO exception, ma? IO exception? You are asking about IO exception, ma?
No, ma'am. Two exceptions. Arithmetic and number format at the same time.
At the time, only one exception will be occurred, ma. It is not possible. Two exception won't be occurred at a time, pa. Only one exception can be occurred at a time. So here itself, I have mentioned, no, wait. Only at a time, only one exception may occur. At a time, only one exception may occur, ma. But for that exception, the cause may be another exception. Understood, appa? At a time, only one exception may be occurred. For that exception, another exception may be the cause. So that we will see later. But at a time, only one exception is occurred. Here itself, I have mentioned, no, at a time. At a time, only one exception is occurred, and at a time, only one catch block is executed. Understood, appa?
Okay.
Then it is not. There is no possibility to occur two exception, pa.
Ma'am, ma'am, can you show that code, ma'am, that last code?
So, nama?
Yes, ma'am. Here, if we pass in the void main, ma'am, in that second line, if we pass 15 comma in the string 0.0, ma'am, then what will happen?
So first time here in the 0.0, that time itself I will get a number format exception. Then this statement and all won't be executed. Automatically this will come to this catch block, number format exception catch block. Actually here most general to specific. But actually this is catched by number format exception. After that this statement and all will be executed. But if exception is not catched, even this statement or all won't be executed. Understood, appa? Understood, Anna? So at a time only one exception will be occurred, appa.
Ma'am, if we have two catch blocks, like one for that divide by 0 and one for number format exception and one for normal exception, 3 exception blocks, ma'am, for catch, then what will be executed?
If number format exception is occurred, that is catched by number format exception catch block. Arithmetic exception is occurred means that is catched by arithmetic exception. Other than the two exception, if any exception is occurred, that is catched by that general catch block, ma'am.
Ma'am, if I pass 15 comma in the string 0.0, then for that 0.0 number format exception will occur, or the other one will occur?
Number format exception will be occurred.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Clear, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So we will see the nested try block in next class, ma'am.